Hey, my name is Drew Boa. I'm the founder of Husband Material, where I help men outgrow porn. Thanks for listening to my interview with Chandler Rogers, who's the founder of Relay, the number one group based program to break free from the system of porn and sex addiction and find lasting freedom. I think Relay is really innovative in helping people in recovery connect with each other, not just during group meetings, but throughout the week in daily doses. And in this episode, you're going to hear Chandler's personal story as well as what he has discovered about what makes a group successful. What does real accountability look like? Not the shaming, purity culture kind, and also some of the unique value of enhancing our connections and our communities with digital, consistent, daily actions. Enjoy the episode. Hey, welcome to Husband Material. Today we get to hear from Chandler Rogers, who is the founder of Relay. Welcome, Chandler.
Thanks, Drew. So glad to be here.
Yeah, I'm super glad you're here, especially since over the last few years, Relay seems to have come a long way. What's the story behind your passion for creating Relay?
For me, I never planned on starting an app that helped people with something as sensitive as porn addiction. I grew up in a Christian household. I was the oldest of five, and I remember my parents talking about pornography. It was something that we did talk about in our home. I knew that they really wanted to help us avoid falling into pornography, and I always had this desire to be good, to be a good kid, to excel and achieve whatever I set my mind to. And when I stumbled into pornography, and later as I realized the effect it was having on my life, I felt what a lot of people have described as like that shame, that loneliness, and my initial path, like what I did kind of in my recovery, I the first thing I did was join a group. And I've talked to a lot of guys who maybe don't get to that step for 20 years, 30 years. And I'd struggled alone for a couple years, but I was still relatively young. I was a senior in high school at the time when it came across this young adult group led by a therapist via Zoom. So it was an online thing once a week on Wednesday nights. It was like $60 a week or something. And I was like, let's give it a go. My parents were willing to help pay for it. So I was willing to be open with my parents, which is maybe a part of my story that I'm like, why was I actually willing to talk about that? And why did I feel comfortable stepping into a group at 18 years old? But looking back, I think I just felt really quickly this deep truth in my heart that I couldn't do this alone. And what's led to ending up building Relay is just this conviction around how important connection is, and the reality that we weren't designed to be on this earth to navigate these things alone. We don't have to do it alone. There's a better path to do it, and that's by building a support system and walking that path together. So that's what I stumbled upon in my recovery, and I found it to be the missing piece that helped me.
Absolutely. And we talked a little bit about that in last week's episode with Chris Chandler, who's part of your clinical advisory board at Relay. And we were created for relationships, for intimacy, and recovery happens so much better in a group. You have facilitated hundreds of groups now through Relay. What patterns are you noticing about what makes a group successful?
Yeah, I think when somebody gets to the point where they're willing to join a group, and these groups in the app, right, they're maybe less scary than a traditional maybe 12-step group that you think about walking into a church basement or going in person and sitting around the circle. This is like fairly anonymous. I can download an app. I can, get put into a group where I only have to share my first name. I don't have to put a profile picture. But I think that people, when they come into a group, they often are looking to get something. They're looking to feel something from others. And what I've noticed is a lot of the time, either they instantly are met with that belonging, that feeling of connection. They feel seen for the first time, maybe ever. They feel like they can be open and vulnerable. But on the flip side, there tends to be maybe the hero's journey where things aren't as roses and butterflies and picture perfect, and the novelty of this new thing, this new tool has worn off, and I reach out and no one answers, or I feel ashamed and no one has the right thing to say, or somebody gives me advice and it doesn't quite hit right. And so I think the biggest thing I've noticed is kind of expectations around when we join a community, when we step out of doing this alone. What are the expectations we have? I think there's so many righteous expectations to have, But I think the part of us, the inner boy, I know you talk a lot about this in your book, Drew, of healing the boy to free the man. Like, especially in those early stages, I'm often not aware of what I'm trying to heal. What wounds am I trying to heal? And so we're still desperately trying to make these bids for connection, but people are still people. Even amazing people in these recovery communities can let us down, or we find some moments of like, I get this accountability or this support and it rings true and it's helpful, but it's not a silver bullet. And so the ability to manage those expectations and realize that joining a group, joining a community is not actually going to materially change everything about your trajectory. What I think, my thesis is, having a group gives you an environment where you can do all of the individual work you need to do. It gives you an environment where you can do your personal work together in an open environment with other people.
So, in other words, expecting the group will somehow fix me is going to be disappointing.
Yeah, I mean, and sometimes it like varies, right? It's like you are with a group that you gel with. I think sometimes people are maybe even looking for like a similar set of people that you would be friends with outside of this context. Like, I remember showing up to my first Zoom meeting and like I was trying to gauge, are these people that I don't think I would use these words in my head, but deeply subconsciously I was like, do I respect these people? Are they in line with kind of my type of person that I would hang out with, and however that is categorized. And I realized a lot of them were into different things, different hobbies. Some were older, some were younger. And I think I pretty quickly realized this wouldn't necessarily be my choice of best friends, but I almost prefer it that way. It's almost like the diversity, which we talk a lot about in modern culture and society, diversity. I think diversity within a recovery group where not everyone's at the exact same sobriety day. Not everyone's been on the road to recovery the exact same length of time. Not everyone has the same story. Not everyone has the same details to their struggle. I think that's a really enriching thing. But if you're coming in looking for like, yeah, I want to find guys that can understand my exact nuance and my exact struggle, sometimes it can be disappointing. It maybe doesn't feel as validating as I hope, as I'm being vulnerable, putting it out there. And maybe we're overemphasizing the negative, Drew. I think there's a lot of like beauty, and oftentimes people are great about like in community and recovery, especially. I think people know what it feels like because they were there themselves a month ago when they
Mm-hmm.
started, or a year ago. And so I think there is this natural, like, something unique about community within this space that a lot of people maybe didn't know they were missing, or they thought, okay, I'm willing to put myself out there. I'm willing to get past the point where I'm humbling myself to join a group of men for this issue. But then it's kind of like I'm not embarrassed about it, going from there all the way to I actually look forward to it and I kind of
Mm.
like it. But can I admit that? Is that okay? Like, have you seen that?
Yeah. There's part of me that absolutely loves being in a group. And there's part of me that is anxious every time. Am I going to be too intense? Is my specific struggle that I'm in right now able to be held by this group?
Hmm.
Or are they going to try to give me advice?
Yeah.
I have come to a place where I love groups, and I actually decided to step back from leading my own groups this fall so that I can just be in a group and just participate
Oh, that's awesome.
and not be in charge, because we all need a place like that. And it was surprising to me at first how much connection really can happen online in a digital space where some people would say, oh, well, that's not the same as in person. What do you see as some of the benefits of using an app or an online format?
Yeah, I think it's really about, like, we've been, so many of us, right? It, like, for me, I was maybe not dealing with this for decades and decades because I did find help, like, still when I was young, but I still felt like this was attempt number 1723 to do something different. And I think everyone probably can relate to that, of like, okay, but maybe this new program, this new tool, this new group, it feels like a missing piece. One part of me wants to believe that. The other part of me doesn't really trust myself. Maybe I'm too broken, not good enough to really be a recipient of whatever goodness this tool could give me. And am I really savable? I don't know. Those are some fears that I grappled with for a while. Transparently, like when I started Relay, I didn't have great sobriety in my own measurement. I didn't feel like I've kicked this for good. That was not my mindset. I want to say maybe I was at 3 or 4 weeks, like which was decent for maybe my track record or my typical cycle. But I think I hadn't even fully understood the root of like where this was stemming from. And I built this for me, and I realized that even though I had gone to groups that were in a live format, in person and over Zoom, those were only like 1 hour a week. So what was I doing the other days of the week? I think a digital format has been huge. And what I wanted to create with Relay originally was, how do we take this to a 7 days a week? I'm not just going back into my corner and fighting my own battle and doing this alone, retreating to isolation, but I think I'm still working my program to it. Connection is something I can practice on the daily. And we all have lives, we have jobs. And so how to make that accessible on a practical level is like a challenge that we've tried to tackle and wrangle with Relay of, if you've realistically only got 5 to 10 minutes in a busy day with your work and family responsibilities, like how can you still stay connected with your community, with your support system, and work your program? It's like a critical piece, I think, in filling gaps, where and I think traditional formats like in person, I love. I know you and I were just talking before this episode about the power of like in person retreats. And I think that like it's all progression. So a lot of people out there that are dealing with pornography, maybe some listening to this video, you may not feel like you're at a place where you have that courage or it feels comfortable enough to jump into an in-person group or even one on Zoom where you have to show your face. But if I can just start somewhere to talk with other people, that's powerful. And I think like a lot of these guys, I expected would come into this app and want to stay super anonymous. But what we've actually seen is a lot of them, they want to be seen and known. They maybe start out with using a nickname, and then they end up updating their account to their real name, putting a real profile picture when they realize that they feel safe, right? They've got a safe environment. And so I think it's about providing options that make it easier for you to be able to go from being totally alone and in shame to stepping out of that shame and into connection.
That's awesome. Now that you talk about the need for connection to happen every day, not just 1 or 2 hours once a week, I don't see how it could keep happening without digital tools in today's world. And I mean, how beautiful when a group is no longer seeing their meeting as the main thing. I usually like to call a weekly group meeting a huddle, and then the rest of the week is going out to play the game.
Oh, I love that.
And if we don't play together as a team, we're going to lose again and again because this is a team sport and evil is playing as a team. And so I think it's so, so critical to have an easy, effective way to connect with each other during the week. The enemy's strategy is to divide and conquer. So, we might have a great group meeting, but what about the rest of the week?
I love that you said the word strategy because, like, if we just continue the analogy further, I played basketball for a while. I ran track and cross country. It was clear to me within the game of basketball how strategy worked. It wasn't just we have our tools, like we have our gym, we have our shoes. You got to have the right shoes to play basketball. All these things that help us, right, perform as a team and individually. But we also got to have strategy. And when I got more into running, it felt like, nah, you just run. You just go from A to B and there's no strategy. And I kind of felt like recovery in my early kind of understanding of it was similar. It's like, no, you just go from A to B. I need to just stop this and get over here. I need to just change, just do it, just make it happen. And I recognize that I need the tools. I still need the running shoes. I need to, have the right things. But I honestly, I think this analogy of having a strategy individually and as a team is important because it does acknowledge that there are forces kind of working against us, and how are we proactively trying to address that? And it's obviously this isn't a game. This is real, right? This is our real hearts, our real relationships, our real life. This is so much more than just porn, and I think it's so important what you're talking about that we not only have tools, but we have a plan. We can develop a strategy, and it's not just us alone trying to be the coach and the player and the teammates. It's like we need all of those people involved.
Yeah. Are you seeing groups that meet in person using a tool like Relay as well, like a hybrid?
Yes, actually. We'd wondered if people had like found a way to meet up because we don't actually directly facilitate that. And I just heard this story from this guy. He is a businessman and sits on the board for multiple companies. So I assume he's doing okay financially. And he's like, "Hey, I just want to let you know, I've been getting together with my group. I've actually been flying around to meet up. They did a meetup in New York. They did another one in San Francisco. He's like, our wives have become like really good friends." And I was like, wait, like you guys met through Relay, right? You're talking about your Relay team that like the app puts you in? He's like, yes, the very same team. I'm like, whoa, that is really cool. But I think it's a great case study, right? It's like I mentioned people putting their real profile pictures. It goes a step beyond that. And we've heard other stories too of people that are just like, oh, we only live a state away, let's meet up for coffee sometime, or just like let's grab lunch. I think having a variety of ways, like it's not just a hybrid, like sometimes in person, sometimes not. I think we're really trying to create a well balanced plate. We need our fruits, our vegetables, our meat. Like I need different doses of connection, different formats of connection to help, give me the holistic support that I need. And that can be tailored based on where I'm at in my journey. Like for me, I feel lucky if I can get, an hour a week to meet with my therapist. And, if I can check in the app, which I try to do with my group in the app, for 2 minutes, I feel like that's all I can afford right now. And I'm at a stage where we've got a young kid with another on the way. And it feels like maybe that's all that's feasible for me now. But I've had seasons where I need to, make more time for in person or make more time for online. And so I think also just that like what I've seen is the people who seem to do really well in these environments know, or they have the awareness to kind of adapt their support system or their level of how much connection they're planning into their week, and to do that in an honest way, to not try to
Mhm.
say, oh, I'm good, I don't need more than X amount of meetings or connection or whatever that looks like, but to kind of notice I need to throw myself in a little heavier right now because I know I'm vulnerable, I know I've got a lot of emotional
Mhm.
pain going on. But at other points it's like I'm making a values based decision to kind of adjust or cut back rather than a comfort based decision or a shame based decision to like sneakily isolate. It's a fine balance being able to adapt.
Because we go through different seasons. And I've heard some guys in the middle of being discovered in their porn use or going through a relationship crisis, finding a ton of value in 90 meetings in 90 days or something along those lines. And it seems like consistent connection, even if it's digital, even if it's in an app, can help to serve that purpose. We're building new neural pathways, and that doesn't happen without time and daily interaction.
Yeah, it is like a muscle, I think, where we've got to get the reps. And it's not just I go to the gym once and work out my biceps and now I'm Superman. It's, yeah, this muscle is severely underdeveloped. And it's not just I need to practice knowing how to talk about my shame and talk about my pain and be able to relate and connect and be vulnerable. I've got to get comfortable like breaking out of a paradigm that is
Yeah.
like, I can do this. I'm the hero of my story, to the surrender. I think surrender is at the heart of connection. Like, how can
Mm,
I let other people in
right.
and be let in to other people in an intimate way, in a healing way, without some sort of surrender? And that's hard, but I think it's a muscle that we can develop.
Yeah. Vulnerability is learned. And sometimes guys will ask me, how are you so vulnerable on the podcast and the things that I share about my sexual fetish or about present day struggles?
Yeah,
And
Drew, surely you just always plan to talk about this stuff. You're just born to talk about these things, obviously.
no, every time I've shared my story in a group setting, my goal has been to say one thing that I've never told anyone before, to share just a little bit more than I ever have about a specific story or a specific thing that has turned me on or something. And every time those muscles get stronger, every time the belief that maybe I am loved and accepted, and maybe my darkest secrets don't disqualify me,
Hmm.
that just sinks in a little deeper every time. I'm grateful that you've built a tool that allows people to slowly ramp up to more vulnerability, more connection. and ultimately more freedom.
Yeah, I think it's needed as the problem gets worse as technology evolves in a more, degrading direction, where it seems like the world is moving to hypersexuality and lack of any morals, lack of any integrity. How do we leverage connection? How do we leverage tools? And for me, my calling felt like, how can I bring technology to use some to help guys feel like technology can be an aid in their journey to healing rather than it is the problem and I'm trying to escape it as the tech, the phone, the computer.
Yeah. As much as porn has come a long way in the past 10 or 20 years, recovery has come a long way too. Man, I wish I had some of these things when I was starting out.
Yeah, no, I think that all the time. And it is cool to see, like, we do get a lot of guys who are, I won't call them old, but they're in a more established season of life, but we get guys showing up and they're in college or they're younger, and it just is cool to see, like, this isn't just guys maybe who are seeing their relationship blow up. We're also seeing guys, I think, younger and younger not buy into the mainstream narrative of, everyone's doing it, everyone, it's cool, which is maybe what I heard in high school or in the locker room, but more and more guys just not accepting that narrative that I'm built for more. I'm built for more connection, more fulfillment beyond this false promise that is pornography and all the things that come with it.
Beyond the pacifier.
Yes. Yes. I love the analogy of the pacifier because it really is like, for me, it's like I have compassion on my younger self. It was just a tool. I was trying to just use it as a tool to feel better, to feel more valid for me. Like I wanted to feel, I think, more seen as a good person. I wanted to be seen as an achiever, as somebody who is successful. And because I felt like I just couldn't fully be recognized and seen in that way, porn felt like that reinforcer of, well, maybe you're just mediocre. It was that pacifier that I knew I felt stupid for using it, but that's why I kept turning back to it.
Yeah.
I know you talk about all the reasons in the book why. Like, it's not just one reason we use a pacifier, right?
Yeah. It's not just about self soothing, it could also be about reinforcing those negative beliefs. Because sometimes it's easier to believe that we'll never be good enough. And that's just comfortable and familiar.
Yeah, it is easier.
As we talk about how far both the porn industry and the recovery movement have come, I'm also thinking about some of the approaches to recovery that have been evolving. And one of the big changes we've seen is the way people approach accountability, the way people approach sharing about relapses and behaviors that you're trying to get free from. What do you see as like healthy accountability, the kind that you're trying to promote on Relay?
It's hard because I think a lot of people might have preconceived experiences that shape our relationship with that word, accountability. For some people I've talked to, it's like a very positive thing. They come in basically demanding, hey, I'm downloading this, I'm joining this thing because I want more accountability. That's what I think I'm going to get here. Other people are coming in and they're feeling like, I feel like accountability equals shame in some past experiences. It's made me feel worse. So yeah, what is accountability? This is maybe the biggest question I've asked because we have certain people say, "Hey man, put the streaks right on the homepage. I want to be able to see that counter front and center." And then other people that are like, "No, I need the reminder that it's more than just how many days that define my definition of recovery progress." And so, what are those other metrics? Like in Relay, they can actually track. We use the three circles model, which a lot of programs use, and I think started in SAA. That you're not just defining your inner circle, what counts as a relapse, and what does sobriety mean, but you're also defining that middle circle of what boundaries define me getting too close to the cliff. For me, maybe it's scrolling Instagram when I'm home alone, or staying up past midnight, or for me, a big emotional boundary is not regulating or addressing feelings of rejection, especially with my wife, like even just little doses of I wasn't seen enough or I wish I had more of that attention. So they're tracking those things. And then they're also tracking self care in that outer circle. So you can customize that like, okay, I'm working out every morning, or I'm doing my daily devotion, or I'm journaling, or going to therapy once a week, whatever it is. So I think that's one step, Drew, of like, what are we even tracking on a daily basis? It's not just, did you look at porn? Did you relapse, and whatever that means to you, but how are you moving towards the person you're trying to be? So I am a believer, and this is my kind of philosophy, that tracking is helpful. I think it's hard to measure what we can't track. And so just like anything, if we want to get better, we've got to measure things, but how do we measure the right set of things that help us get beneath the surface? So a lot of the things that I just mentioned are still behavioral. They're only really measuring, did I do something or did I not do something for these different categories, which is a step. I think step number one is most guys are like, self-care. What does that mean? Isn't that like spas and painting my nails or what, stuff like that? It's what my wife does. No, self-care is, how do we take care of ourselves in our emotional needs, our physical needs, our spiritual needs, our relational needs. And so that's step one. But even just moving beyond behavioral routines and rhythms and systems, how can we be accountable to or let other people into our journey beneath the behavior? So I'm trying to figure out, where did this even stem from? What are the wounds that are driving the behavior? What was I using this as a pacifier for? Where did it start? So there's all that work that, is not maybe the focus of this episode, but how does that relate to accountability? I think maybe one definition of recovery is simply just letting other people have a window into your journey. Your journey can be actions that you're taking, like things that hey Drew, like every day I'm committing with my integrity. Like I don't want to do these things, and that's for me part of my sobriety. I'm also committing to do these other healthy things. That's part of my recovery plan. But it's also creating a window to, what are my thoughts? What are my feelings? What are the inner experiences that are coming up throughout this work? So in Relay, practically, people can track, those 3 circles in their data. And then we encourage them to kind of add a little reflection, that like a share, like if you were in a meeting and you're sharing what's been going on in your mind and your heart this last week. And I feel like a good coach would probably help you go deeper and ask why, or help you kind of draw out, what's really, what are you discovering and navigating under the surface in your recovery right now in your life. Accountability in the group setting, I think that's 10 out of 10 effectiveness, is creating a window to those things, not just, okay, I know Sean's at day 100 and Drew's at day 30. And, I had a relapse yesterday and I'm honest about that. That's a start. And if we can, especially just around the relapse thing, because a lot of guys do come into Relay and they are still having relapses on a daily or weekly basis. So I think even if we can just start to make accountability not a shame-based experience, it's less about resetting my streak and more about being vulnerable with, what is under the surface behind that behavior. That's real accountability. That's real connection. I think that's powerful.
We want to incentivize vulnerability instead of incentivizing secrecy.
For sure. If I could add one more thought on accountability, I think, again, going back to where we started this conversation, what are my expectations when I step into a group? I want to feel like I'm the recipient of some really healthy encouragement, of some not shameful accountability. Like for me, what I want to feel with accountability is like it's easier for me to just do the right thing and to move in the right direction, because I know you're supporting me, because I know you have some visibility, some window into how I'm doing. It's easier for me to actually continue to build momentum, to move in the right direction. And that's so encouraging and empowering. But if our expectations are just, I'm hoping to get that from you in a way that is, it has some expectations attached, some, maybe it looks a certain way, maybe I'm aware of that, maybe I'm not, or maybe somebody doesn't give that in a way that feels quite right. How do I respond to that? So going back to the expectations of, it's not just about what can I get, but what can I give? I think in the traditional maybe 12-step paradigm, just how maybe I've seen the space evolve, the concept of being a sponsor for me makes it feel like you have to be at a certain place in your sobriety in order to really be of service and help someone else. Now, I know there's a lot of ways that maybe the traditional 12 steps would encourage the idea of turning outwards that goes beyond that, but it does feel a little bit like, only once I've really cracked this thing can I help somebody. And I think when we think about accountability, it's got to be from day one, no matter where I'm at and how early I feel in my journey. The muscle of connection, it goes both ways. I've got to practice learning how to care about you and see you, Drew, and your pain, in your progress check in. Like if I'm seeing your 3 circles check in and your journal reflection, how do I flex into that to develop that empathy, to receive your vulnerability? I think that strengthens that healthy bidirectional accountability. If I'm just hoping to receive that, again, it's we overcompensate, we're let down. It doesn't produce the end result so much as when we have the chance to be there for someone else, not when we've cracked it, but along the way as we're doing it ourselves. We don't have to be perfect.
And that is true not just for good sexual recovery, but also for good sex. To be a good sexual partner, we need to be not just me, me, me. We have to get outside of ourselves too.
Yeah.
It needs to be reciprocal, mutual.
Yeah. Recovery can't be just about me.
Right. So I think in a space where we're not just taking something, for example, in a one on one session with a counselor or coach, but in a group where everybody gets a chance to share and everybody supporting each other, we're practicing the virtues that make a good husband, make a good lover.
That's so true.
So I really think it's a lab for love that is not just about abstaining from sexual behavior, but having really good, godly sexual behavior too.
Yes, I'm like, how are you gonna phrase this? It's really a lab to get good at, you know. It's like so accurate though, because it's intimacy. It's intimate to be vulnerable about my deep dark secrets and to let you in to have this relationship around connection and accountability as we're working through this together in our recovery community. But man, that makes me, yeah, it does make me so much better at being able to attune to my wife's needs and to notice her emotions and to step into that with her and vice versa, to be able to even
Yeah,
advocate for like, here's what I think I need right now.
exactly. So I'm convinced that what we learn in brotherhood applies equally to the bedroom. Those same skills and attitudes we're developing of curiosity, compassion, courage, dealing with our shame, being real about our fears, and pressing into the mess. Last week with Chris Chandler and Andrew Engstrom, I created a new definition of intimacy, which is into messy.
Into messy. Yeah.
Maybe that's part of what our expectations need to be for our groups. It's going to be a mess, and it's going to be a mess worth making. Yeah. Chandler, what is your favorite thing about freedom and healing?
You know, I think early on, it was feeling like I could like not be alone in this anymore. Not just the knowledge that I wasn't alone, but the felt sense of I've got a set of brothers that are on the same path with me. I respect them. I love them. I know they love me. And that feeling was something I didn't know that I needed or wanted in my life. And I think even as I've moved beyond that, I think the most beautiful part of this whole journey for me, which is still in progress. I feel like I'm learning new things and developing more in my recovery every month, every year. But it's like it's actually I'm becoming more in tune and connected with myself, and especially with my past, that little boy. Just really briefly, I mentioned I have a 2-year-old at home. Getting to love him and build a relationship with him as young as he is, building a real connection, I think has been a fruit of my labor in recovery to get more connected with myself. That little boy that was in pain, that didn't know how to outgrow this pacifier of porn for so long, that felt so stuck, that felt more broken than everyone else in the groups. Getting to see that now manifest in my actual posterity with the next generation, it just fills me with a desire and this vision of like the beauty is not just my own healing, it's what could this do for him. And as I see other men changing and becoming husbands and fathers that are changed and healed, even though it's a work in progress, it's not just what it's doing for them, but I see what it's going to do for their family, the generation that comes after us.
Amen. Yeah, there's so many ripple effects. And I resonate with what you said about getting what you didn't know you needed. So many of us coming into this think, I need sobriety. I need to save my relationship.
Yeah. I need to put out the fire, just
Yeah.
get rid of this, weed it out.
Not realizing that there's so much more to that we've been missing out on.
I think it's all about connection and like
Mm-hmm.
the beauty of life and the richness and the color that just so much to appreciate, I think, about life as we move beyond and discover and connect with our own self and with the others around us.
Chandler, thanks so much for being with us. If somebody would like to get connected to Relay, where should they go?
Yeah, you can just go to the App Store or the Play Store on your phone and you can search Relay. You can also go to our website, www.joinrelay.app. And yeah, whether you're already a part of a program, you're working with a therapist, you don't have anything at all, and you're listening to this video and you're scared, you want to take a first step, we're here to help make that step easier.
And I also spent some time on the Relay website today and saw that they have a podcast. They also have a free in-depth guide, which is really, really good. You should go check that out, and I'll put a link to it in the show notes. Guys, always remember, you are God's beloved son. In you, he is well pleased.